Welcome to the You Can Man podcast, episode 13. I'm Josh.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Dave.
And on this week's episode, how to start a landscaping business.
All right, guys, welcome back. This week we have a subject matter expert, and Josh is going to introduce him.
Yeah, so this is Matt LaMarsh. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you.
Yay.
Matt is my cousin. He's been my cousin for a long time.
Since you've been born, right?
Since he's been born, he's been my cousin.
Yes.
Since I came after.
Yeah.
Got it.
Fun fact, Matt and I are 364 days apart in age, so we're the same age for one day.
Whoa.
Yeah,
You
how
guys
cool
spend
is
that day
that?
together every year?
Every year. So Matt's our expert on the topic today, which is landscaping business. So we'll get into that. But before we get started, how was your week?
Dave always goes first.
I'll
Dave.
start as per usual. My week, as per usual, was great. But I have something to talk about. So tonight, before I came over here, putting the kids to bed, I was reading my son a book, The Three Horrid Little Pigs.
The what? Say that one more time.
The three
Yeah, say that.
horrid
Horrid. Okay.
Horrid,
Great.
okay.
Horrid
Got it.
little
That's
pigs.
not what I thought you said.
Got it.
And it's kind of a rewrite on what's the
Three Little Pigs.
The Three Little Pigs. Thank you.
All right.
So it's a rewrite on that.
They just stuck an adjective in
Right.
there.
But the Three Little Pigs are horrid. Okay, so they're bad. And the wolf, the big bad wolf, is now a nice wolf, and he's a builder. Okay, he's a contractor.
I don't like this already.
Okay, so, and I've thought about this before, but tonight it hit me again, and I was like, well, I need to talk about it on the podcast. Do people who live, let's say, in Alaska, all you Alaskan listeners out there, let us know, do you read books to your children that paint wolves and bears in like friendly, in a friendly light? We're like,
good
oh,
question.
it's the friendly little wolf and the friendly bear.
Yeah.
Because, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we live in suburbia and we don't have to worry about wolves and bears. And so we teach our kids that these wolves and bears are nice and friendly. I don't know. It seems weird to me because whenever I'm reading these books, I want to be like, hey, seriously, if you see a wolf, don't go near it.
Yeah, I feel like, first of all, that story stands on its own. It's a good lesson.
You don't need to redo it?
Yeah, you don't need to totally turn it on its ear. I don't see the benefit of that.
I think it's lazy writing. Like they can't come up with
Well, I'm
better
going to
story.
say a blanket statement, but children's book writing, I think that's about as
An easy biz.
about as easy as it gets.
Yeah.
So if you can rhyme, you can write a kid's book.
What I always think of with children's books is on the movie Elf, where they bring in the guy.
Oh, yeah.
Which I remember the
Yeah.
children's book
Yes.
expert.
Yes.
The little
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Call me Elf one more time.
That was an epic scene. Epic scene.
Anyways, I know that has nothing to do with what you just said, Dave.
What
Sorry,
is
but-
the story like? The wolf's good. He builds
The
their
wolf.
houses.
So the three horrid little pigs are very bad, and they get kicked out of their mom kicks them out of their house, and they're like, okay, well, we're going to build our own houses. And the first horrid little pig, they're lazy, and the first one builds his house out of straw, and he's lazy, so he doesn't build it well. And then the friendly builder wolf comes along and says, oh dear, I'm going to see if I can help that little pig with his house. And so he knocks on the door of the straw house and says, can I help you? And the little pig's like, get out of here. So then he goes to the second little pig who built it out of
Sticks?
twigs. Yeah. And can I help you? Get out of here, wolf. And then, kind of on down the line. Well, in the end, they all live together in one big, strong house.
Yeah, that's lazy. I don't
Yeah,
like that.
I agree. For me, more, it's that
What's the lesson? Also, I don't.
Socialism.
to not
Socialism.
Yeah.
to not be
Pool your
to
resources.
not be mean and to be friendly with wolves. I don't know.
Yeah,
I was
okay.
going to say,
That's what I'm
if he was-
saying. I don't dig it.
if he was a typical contractor, he would have just never showed up at all.
Listen,
right?
I'm not going to go
good.
there. I'm not going to go there because I'll get on my soapbox. But I just don't like, being friends with wolves and bears. Seems weird to me.
Yeah, no reason for that. I didn't have any big events, Tim, this week.
Not really.
Matt,
No,
throw it
it was a
across
pretty
the table.
uneventful week for me. Matt, what about you?
So I'm a real estate agent now. We'll talk more, about the background or whatever, but closed on a house that I had for sale. So that's exciting.
I saw that on Facebook.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's your first listing
First
closing?
listing, second deal. Yeah. For this year.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Back up. Sorry, I don't know the lingo in the biz. First listing that you.
If you want me to sell your house,
Yeah.
That's a listing.
Okay.
Hey, you want me to
so
help
this
you
was your
buy?
first one that you closed.
Exactly.
Cool.
Oh,
Congrats.
quiz time though, because I used to be, and this never made sense to me. I used to be a realtor.
All three of you guys are real estate
Yeah.
agents.
So what do you call what we would think of as the buyer's agent? Either you guys know?
Yeah, the seller.
That's
Yeah.
that's right. It was always weird to me. Why in the world they called the buyer's agent the selling agent?
Yeah, when you're going, when you're
Yeah.
going through the classes, the
Yeah.
formal term is the selling agent, but that's actually on the buyer's side.
Okay,
right?
dorks, quit excluding me. I don't know what you guys are talking about. All right.
Be quiet, PE.
So,
you've
Matt-
only got a PE. That's not like getting a realtor license. It's way different.
So
You wouldn't
Matt,
understand.
Matt, your goal is 10 houses this year, right?
10 houses this
or
year,
10,
yes.
10 transactions.
10 transactions, 10 families, 10 houses, 10 buy, 10 sell, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
I did
0.83.
7. I think I did 6 or 7 my rookie year.
yeah. I think my best year was like 4.
Yeah.
It was like 2 years ago.
It's a good number. I mean, I feel like there's two groups of people. The group over on the left says, that's a bit of a stretch. And then there's another group, and this is just other people that I know, agents and whatever, that are like, no, you should probably do like 30 or 40. And I'm like,
Whoa.
settle it down
Yeah, easy.
over there. So we'll see.
I'm going to say you can, man, for 8 houses
I
in
agree.
a year.
I think 10 is a solid number.
10, sorry.
I think it's a good starting point for sure.
8 to go.
For sure. That's
8 to
right.
go.
8 to go.
Okay, well, we want to hear about how in the world you transitioned. We said subject matter expert on landscaping.
Yeah.
And that would be you, Matt. So
Right.
we want to hear how in the world you came to be a realtor.
Sure.
Right? So what did you do before? Take it away.
Yeah. So 3-4 years ago, I started my own landscaping business. You know, I basically started it part-time while I was working a full-time corporate America job. And over the course of about 6 months, took it from a part-time kind of gig, I would call it side gig, up to basically a full-time business to replace my corporate America income. And honestly, to kind of take it back a little bit further, 4, 5, 6 years ago, lost both my grandfathers who were very entrepreneurial. And, excuse me, attending those funerals and hearing some of the things said about them was very inspiring to me. And it kind of cropped up these feelings and emotions of I should probably reconsider this. For the listeners that don't know me or anything else about my background, I had a business where probably about 12, 13 years ago, I would take stuff for people and sell it for them on eBay. And that included individuals. It was small businesses. Nonprofits, in fact, would bring me a ton of stuff, hundreds or thousands of items at a time. I would sell them on eBay, take a commission, and give them the remaining proceeds.
What's the weirdest thing you ever sold?
I didn't actually sell it, but I did list a piece of property, a piece of land.
Whoa.
And that was
sell?
no. Well, we listed it, and then 3 days in, he decided he wanted to keep
You can
it.
sell land on eBay?
You could. I don't think you can really do it anymore.
I think I was going to drop some stuff off to you one time where I was like, hey, could you sell this? And I think you were like, yeah, that's not going to sell.
Well,
Yeah. He was thinking of the land. He's like, no, it's not going to work.
but that was the answer to a lot of things. I mean, look, if it's an item that's going to sell for $10 or $15 or $20 to pay me half, is it really worth it for my time and for your time? No. So I kind of had a minimum of like $50 to $75. That was beneficial for me.
Did you have like storage units or how did you handle your inventory?
The great thing about it was that 7-day auction, so I would take it in on a Saturday and then I was shipping it out the next Saturday. So things were moving pretty quickly. But all in all, that business basically just vaporized all of my customers. This was, nearing the downturn, and all my customers just went away. A lot of people started selling their own stuff, It's making pretty decent money, but the business just vaporized. So bring it back to like 4 or 5 years ago, I kind of feel like I needed to pick me up to put myself back on my feet as an entrepreneur. I kind of started advertising and putting the word out that I was going to start a business doing this, and didn't have any equipment, didn't have a truck, didn't have a trailer. So it was a little daunting to be in that
Did you
position.
have did you actually like doing yard work?
I still do, actually. I mean, it's one of those things that, and it's very DIY centric in that you get that satisfaction and it's pretty much instantaneous.
Yeah.
You know, and if you do a good job, you know, and you know what you're doing, it can be, you know, something that doesn't require a ton of money, something that really doesn't require a ton of time, but it gets you that instant impact.
So, Matt, I know you've got an entrepreneurial spirit. I've known you a long time, and you've done a couple stints in, at least a few, in, like you said, corporate America, in sales, which is where you belong. So with the landscaping business, you know, you've got this steady income, and I know a lot of our listeners are, you know, maybe right now at this moment, they're kind of struggling through the same thing. I've got this gig. It pays me. It's consistent. I hate it. Where can I go? We're kind of approaching this episode from the standpoint of, hey, a landscaping business is something you can actually take on and have it be viable enough to support you at least.
Sure.
So what kind of tipped the scales? What gave you the confidence to first just start, like you said, on part-time basis, but then to make the leap full-time?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely be remiss if I didn't mention my wife, because if I didn't have her support, none of it would have been possible, like 100%. So first and foremost, kudos to her for kind of giving me that bandwidth. Without that, you know, if there's a single guy or a single girl out there that's thinking about it, it's a lot easier than you think. I think a lot of people get overwhelmed with the idea of, you know, if you're making $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 a month in your job, you know, it doesn't take long if you kind of take some necessary steps. But if you just have a philosophical difference about service, at least in my mind. And so for me, you know, it was really important to prove to my wife, but to also prove to myself that I could be successful as an entrepreneur. So I kind of started over and said, okay, I can't just cold turkey it. We're going to build up some customers. We're going to take 6 months. We're going to work nights, weekends, missed a lot of birthday parties and family events during that time, which was a sacrifice. But I knew at the end of the day, you know, that I was working for something bigger than that stuff. So
you were doing like kind of a proof of concept. Like
effectively.
You're saying, I'm going to make this successful small scale.
Exactly.
To prove that the model could work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it literally took 3 months. I think it was September, October, November of that fall. And you got to keep in mind, in that world, in that industry, that's the slow time. Like, you're getting into the slowest part of the season. So I thought, if I can prove it, if I can make it during this time, when the season hits, I'll be golden, you know? So that 3 months was really like the proving ground. Like you said, it was the proof of concept. And at that time, I was driving a 2007 Tahoe. I didn't have a trailer. I didn't have anything other than a 21-inch lawnmower.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about is, for me, if I'm starting a landscaping business, I'm excited because I get to buy a truck. Okay. And so I know I've known Matt a long time. He's a car guy, and he had a cool truck, so that must have been fun.
That was definitely a big draw for it, for sure. But
when Matt started, he was driving his 2007
That
Tahoe.
is true.
Right.
Yeah, you were pulling a trailer with that Tahoe, weren't you?
yeah, and you don't have to rush out and buy a $40,000 truck to start a landscaping
That's how
business.
you got broke.
In fact, you don't have to have a 10-year-old pickup truck. I mean, you can do it in an SUV. You can do it in a minivan. I mean, I've seen, and you know, a lot of people get some hate online about different vehicles. Dude, I appreciate that hustle. Like, for me, that's kind of inspiring because it's like they're willing to like do it different.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Take that third seat out of the Aerostar.
Exactly.
Roll that push mower in
That's
the back.
right. So yeah, I mean, I had a 2007 Tahoe. For 3 months, I would throw my little 21-inch lawnmower in the back of it and drive around the neighborhood and cut grass. And I had a weed eater, do the whole thing, and you know, it kind of worked out for that first 3 months. But in that first 3 months, I built up from 0 to, you know, basically 10-ish customers full time, you know, a revolving account, reoccurring business, basically reoccurring revenue. And I think we finished off that year in December with, I don't know, $1,500, $1,600 in business every month in revenue.
Wow.
And basically zero expense outside of my time and a little bit of gas, you know, in the truck and in the mower. So,
yeah, and so for our listeners, that was part-time work while you were holding a full-time job. So you folks out there that, you know, maybe you don't want to go into landscaping full-time, but you just need that side hustle. You don't want to work fast food or pizza delivery. This is landscaping.
Yeah. And if you enjoy it like I did, it was easy to go out and do it. I mean, certainly there was a sacrifice, But at the same time, again, I knew what I was working for. And while I was doing it, again, the proof of concept, but I also actually enjoyed the work because you do get to see that immediate result. So January, we had 10 customers full time. February, we had 20. And then in March, we had 40. And I went to my wife and said, we have to make a decision here. It's either leave where I'm working and pursue this business full time, or I got to stop kind of where I am and just continue making $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month extra on the nights and weekends. And she wanted her husband back at that point.
Yeah, and how do you cut 40 lawns by yourself with a push mower? Seems like quite a tall order.
It's
Was it at least self-propelled?
it was
I feel like you could to steal one of Tim's terms, country strong, doing that all day. You know what I'm saying? Man,
it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but January, February, March is when I kind of took it to the next level. I kept the Tahoe, but I did get a trailer. Obviously, the efficiency then really starts to ramp up. And then in April, when I left my full-time job, I went out, and I don't advise this, but I was in a position at the time to do it. I got a 48-inch, commercial mower that I think retails for like, $8,500. They had it on sale for like $8,000, but they had 0% on it for 4 years. And I paid it off, 2 years in early, but I didn't have any interest on it. It was basically free money.
you still mow your lawn with that thing?
I have since sold it.
Oh, I wanted to try. I never saw it, but Josh said it was one that you like stand up on.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But a lot of research and, goes into that piece just alone, and took 2 or 3 months just to find what I kind of needed there.
Talk about when I think about the Atlanta market, I feel like there's tons of landscaping businesses,
Infinite.
right? Yeah. So talk about how you there's still plenty of room in that space.
Yeah, for sure. And part-time or full-time. I mean, to Josh's point, you could, if you're just looking to make some extra money, you could easily, especially if you enjoy that type of work, you could easily go pick out 5, 10, 15 yards in your neighborhood probably that you could knock out, and they're right there, so you could walk there. You don't need a full, rig.
I mean, if you have a riding lawnmower, you could just drive there.
Drive it over there, yeah.
And Matt, I remember you saying, just real quick, one thing you did, and we'll get into some more of the marketing piece of it, but from a business practice, you, right at the beginning, one of your focuses, I know, was keeping your range tight, like your circle of how far you would drive for business. Yep. You kept that small. Even if you had offers to come cut my grass, 2 cities away, you refused those so that you could maintain your efficiency close. Is
Absolutely.
that a mistake a lot of people get into?
Yeah, I mean, when you're new into any business, I think it's hard to say no because you need money. Cash is oxygen in a business, and you need to get as much cash in as short amount of time as possible. And they don't think that. Most business owners, and especially most contractors, I don't care if you're an HVAC, a plumbing guy, an electrician, not many of them think about their business that way. They think about grabbing cash as quickly as possible. Well, that's all well and good, but if you're driving 30 minutes one way and 30 minutes back, and so what you're referring to is density. We talk about route density all the time for the last 3.5, 4 years. And for me, it was pretty simple to understand that as soon as I cross over the river into East Cobb, I'm in Sandy Springs, as soon as I go into Dunwoody, as soon as I go out of my mile or 2 mile radius, I'm actually losing money unless I can charge astronomical prices.
You've got time and gas going out. Yeah.
And once you've got employees, then you've got labor, And so, I mean, if you're considering this full-time or part-time, the biggest and the best piece of advice I could give you is route density to a point where you're not in the truck, but an hour for every 8, honestly.
Wow.
So when you first started out, you're knocking on doors in your neighborhood. What was that next step? Like, I guess Josh mentioned marketing. Were you just word of mouth, or did you, put any kind of marketing out there?
So there's kind of a funny story. One of the first jobs that I ever picked up, and I actually did it for free because I kind of had to prove to this lady how serious I was, but there was a giant pile of mulch, wood chips, in one of my neighbor's yards, and this was in September, like I had just started my business. And, I tell everyone I know, and everyone's kind of getting the idea of what I'm doing, and I see this giant pile of mulch, and I said, I'll spread that for you for free, for no charge, if you just tell them, 5, 10 of our neighbors, I'm now in the business.
Nice.
And that one pile of mulch probably got me 5 customers.
Wow, cool.
Which, if you're just some quick rough numbers, $100 a month, 5 customers, $500 a month. I mean, for a year, that's $6,000. So that one pile of mulch cost me 2 or 3 hours, but it made me $6,000 that year in revenue.
It's a great way to think about it.
Yeah, that's that forward thinking that's super hard in contracting or small business in general. Like paycheck now or possible years of streams of income later.
Yeah. Well, and so back to Dave's, I guess question, the only marketing I ever really did was word of mouth and social media. There was one mailer that I sent out in addition to a real estate agent's, folder on what's going on in the neighborhood. I think it cost me like $500, and I was just beside myself that I spent money on marketing. But it brought me about $7,500 worth of work that year. So when you look at the ROI, I mean, it was definitely worth it. But then when you consider the business that I built basically on the back of social media and word of mouth, I'm not spending that $500 again.
Well, I love the wood chip story because, I've heard people say before, the words, why would I do this for free? And that's why you do it for free. In the beginning, it's a grind, right? And you've got to get going some way.
Absolutely.
And so that's a great way to think about it.
Well, and people admired it, too. I mean, not many people would just drive by that pile of mulch. Even landscapers wouldn't drive by that. There's a million of them out there. The only thing that really differentiates a good landscaper from a bad one is one that can manage expectations.
Right.
That's the only difference.
I like that in that circumstance, you were the one controlling the expectations of what she was going to do. Meaning, so I'm a photographer. I've been a photographer for years, and there's this industry of any, really, tons of it is like, well, just come do this job and I'll tell my friends. I know that that's in like a lot of different industries and stuff like that. But I like the fact that you were the initiator of that and you set the expectations instead of somebody coming to you and be like, hey, Matt, come cut my lawn for 3 weeks and I know tons of people.
It'll work out. I'll tell them.
You'll get tons of business.
There's a little dirty secret that never ever works out. By the way,
exactly. So I wanted to make that point, and
it's true. It's true. So social media marketing, a lot of face-to-face meetings, and people just that I knew through our community that liked me and trusted me and wanted me to be successful, honestly. I mean, I certainly didn't build this business on my own. I had some great employees over the last 4 years. They allowed me to kind of get to that next step. But marketing was really simple for me. And it comes very natural, obviously. It's part of my skill set. And, for the last 12 years before I started the business, I worked in corporate America in sales and in marketing. I knew what it took to be successful in those worlds, but it's a very different world in any service industry, honestly. Yes, you're still dealing with people, but you have to learn the ins and the outs of your industry and in your business and the equipment and what the expectations are and doing market research. I mean, the business was only around for 3.5, almost 4 years. But honestly, the prior 18 months to starting the business, I was watching YouTube videos and I was listening to podcasts and I was reading books. And it wasn't just about lawn care. It was about business and it was about marketing and it was about sales. And it was about what I thought it was going to take to really be successful, to put myself in a position. And honestly, that 18 months really is what made the business successful. It wasn't the actual work and it wasn't the actual day-to-day operations.
Yeah. So can you talk about that and you've started to touch on it, the other side of social media. So you said you use social media to market yourself, to get your name out there, to get others to help spread your name around the community. Tell us about the side of social media that you benefited from just a learning perspective, because I know we've had conversations about, and we'll post some links to some of the guys you'd recommend to follow if someone's interested in this business. Tell us about the learning and the information you gleaned from social media.
Yeah. So what's great about, the day and age that we live in now is that, there are a ton of people posting a ton of content, not just on YouTube, but on Instagram and on Facebook. And, I kind of got involved in that community, and there's, a ton of guys out there that are filming themselves cutting the grass. It sounds crazy, But that's what they do, and they have massive, I mean, tens of thousands, some of them hundreds of thousands of followers. And, you know, I think it's just like anything else, that it's similar to a TV show that you would watch every week. You get invested into their business and into their life. And for me, it was really important to put myself out there on social media because I knew and I understood that as a business owner, you have to be out in front of people all the time if you want your business to grow. Now, if you're happy with where you are, then you probably could just run the business in and out, you know, day in, day out and be just fine. But I wanted to grow my business and I wanted to get to a point where I could bring on employees and potentially add more crews and so on and so forth. But my biggest focus was on Nextdoor.com. At the time, Nextdoor was very, very new. I mean, I think 3.5, 4 years ago, it probably had a couple 100,000 users across the United States. Now it has millions and millions. And so I saw an opportunity to get on there, post my business on there, and then literally every single person we did a job for, whether it was moving a pile of mulch, installing sod, regrading their entire yard, I would hit them up through a phone call, through a text message, and through an email and say, I need you to review me on Nextdoor after we did the job. And I was confident enough that we had done a good job for them that they would leave me a positive review. And, you know, even to this day, I think we have 35 or 36 reviews on there. And for a business that's 2 or 3 years old, that's insane. And I know that's insane. I'm not just bragging, but the next 3 businesses combined don't even equal my 36. Mm-hmm. So the next guy has like 12, the guy beneath him has 8, and then the guy beneath him has 6. And they've all probably been in the business a total of like 100 years, you know? So, but I would incentivize them. I would ask, you know, for the review, and then I would, you know, offer a gift card or some sort of thank you, because that is the lifeblood. Referrals and word of mouth is like the lifeblood for any good service business, for sure.
All right, Matt, so you built up a successful landscaping business. Can you give us, in general terms, kind of, let's talk money. Mm-hmm. Like, where were you at? So for people listening, they're like, man, that sounds really awesome, and I'd really like to do that. But I need to hear about the money.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm not bashful about it. I mean, look, everyone's got a different story. Everyone's got a different goal. I mean, mine was pretty simple. It was really just to replace my income and actually enjoy what I was doing every day. So I kind of knocked it out of the park there. Am I a millionaire off of that business? Certainly not. But at the end of the day, there is good money to be made. And, you know, where I live in the area that I'm in, there's not many people out cutting their own grass. So it's kind of a vibrant market to pick from. But yeah, so when, let's see, April rolls around, we're about 6 or 7 months into the business. We're probably doing about $6,000 or $7,000 a month in revenue. I've quit my full-time job. I'm working 30 to 40 hours a week. So actually less than my full-time job, but making more. Expenses were pretty easy to control. It's one of the things that attracted me to this business was the low cost of entry. I mean, all in, I think I might have had $10,000. You know, of course, I already had the truck. But you could easily be into this business for $4,000 or $5,000. Less if you just use a 21-inch lawnmower. And if your density is nice and tight. But at some point, I mean, my first year, I think we did about $200,000 in revenue. The second year, we did about $250,000. And then the third year, we ended up doing about $225,000 or so. Profitability got a little bit better, but yeah, that was it was a good revenue stream for sure, especially when you consider how little the expenses were.
And how big was your crew at the height of that?
So it's really only been me and one other guy ever in the business. There was a point where I had 2 guys out running the crew day to day, and I had kind of stepped out of the business. That was about a month or 2. Because when you're paying guys $10, $12, $15 an hour, as soon as someone offers them 50 cents, they go somewhere else for some reason. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was always 2 guys, minimum. Yeah.
Were you doing all the maintenance on your equipment, or were you having somebody else come in and do that? Or did you do no maintenance at all?
Yeah, you got something on me there, I think.
You are on the You Can Man podcast.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I will say that I neglect my lawnmower. I treat it poorly.
yeah.
Honestly, I kind of do too.
It's easy.
It's a workhorse.
Yeah, well, as long as it fires up, I mean, you're good. No, kind of a mix. I had a good buddy of mine that maintained everything for me initially because the $100 that he would charge me to come over, change oil, fuel filters, gas everything up, fill up tires and stuff like that, including the truck and the trailer. I really couldn't beat it. In order to go to the dealer, they were going to charge me $65, $70 an hour. So it was actually a win for me just to have him come over and do it. However, about a year and a half ago or so, I hired a diesel technician, which ended up to be a wonderful move with a diesel truck.
Now, the diesel tech was actually the landscape guy, though.
Correct. Sorry.
That was his professional
Good to clarify.
training.
Right.
Okay.
He was super overqualified for cutting grass. But I hired him, and he was a diesel technician, but he was working as a lawn care technician in my company. And he did all the maintenance for me. He sharpened all the blades and changed all the oil. So, I would pay him what I paid him per hour, and he kind of handled it. But kind of a mix.
How often did you sharpen those blades?
When we were doing 60 yards a week or so,
Wow.
you'd be doing them every 3 or 4 days.
Okay, that's not as bad as I envision. Like after every lawn, those guys are getting out there and just
No, they'll go longer than you think.
Did you charge people that had horrible exposed roots in their yard? Because I'm thinking you would hate to cut my yard. You'd probably be like, look, man, I can't do this.
There's a charge for that. Yeah.
when you lose a
there is?
blade.
Oh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh wow, I'd be racking it up because my yard is horrible. There's not a time that I cut my grass that I don't run over a root. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, I just keep rolling.
I had one a couple weeks ago that stopped the blade, like just stopped it dead. Now I'm using a
that's
push
happened.
mower, and it was over for that blade.
All right.
But I mean, realistically, let's cut the numbers in half, right? And say that you could do $100,000 in revenue if you're a single guy. That's a pretty good living for
that's
cutting
real
grass.
money.
And again, take, 15, 20% out for equipment failure. Like just go buy a new blower, just go buy a new weed whacker, because they're basically all throwaways at this point. I mean, the commercial mower will last you a good 5 to 10 years if you take really good care of it. But, at some point, just like a car or truck or anything else, it does deteriorate to a point that it just makes more sense to replace it.
Okay, so before we get to your, we alluded to your exit of the business. If you could just give us 2 things, maybe
Sure.
2 or 3 biggest mistakes people make when they get into the landscaping business or when they're thinking about getting into landscaping.
Sure.
That they could go off, that kind of sends things off on a bad path before they even get started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the number one thing is saying no. They have to say no because whether it's density, whether it's buying new equipment or the new truck or trailer, whatever, you have to say no for now to say yes later on. And so
Sounds like a Dave Ramsey principle.
it basically is. I mean, look, I was driving a Tahoe around with a 21-inch lawnmower for 4 or 5 months. I have the cash to go buy a brand new truck if I wanted to, but I didn't because I had to prove to myself to it, and I had, again, to prove to my wife that I was serious about this thing. But honestly, it builds a little bit of character when you're pulling a 21-inch lawnmower out of the back of a truck.
You don't look cool.
You don't look cool at all, and you don't have a logo on the side of your truck or anything,
No
so
graphics.
yeah. So the number one thing is saying no because we see the dollar signs and we don't always measure the costs of the business, and so controlling costs certainly, but really controlling revenue because smart revenue will pay you your costs over and over and over again. And so I think that in conjunction with understanding what your costs are huge because if you don't understand that at the end of the day with an employee or with by yourself, whatever you're trying to pay yourself, if you want to make $100,000, that's what $50 an hour, I guess now. If you're working 20,000 or 2,000 hours a year, yeah. You can't charge $50 an hour because you have to pay taxes, you have to buy the equipment, maintain it all. So you really should be charging like 75, 70, 80 even because And that terrifies a lot of people because they think no one's going to pay it, and they'll pay it.
Yeah, and I love you've told me this multiple times. Saying no to existing customers who may be a huge hassle to deal with, that you'll go back and forth with. There are just some unreasonable customers out there, and if you're running a good business and your model is solid, you can say no to bad customers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we did. We said no a lot to existing customers and potential customers because I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I could handle. I knew what the business could handle. And, when your name is on the side of the truck and the trailer, it kind of becomes a little more, it's almost like a baby, a child, because you really get protective of it. So yeah, no, you're exactly right. So yeah, the density, controlling costs, certainly thinking about smart revenue. But I really think that at the end of the day, managing expectations, both your own and your customers, is massive because the problem that I see most guys getting into this business full-time or part-time is that they make promises they can't deliver on, and that's every contractor out there. It's not just lawn care and landscaping. They'll find a customer out there, and their customer will say, I'm paying $150 a month right now, and they're like, well, we'll do it for $140. Great, but then the race to zero is on, and someone else is going to come along and go $130, $120, $100. The next thing you know, that guy's paying $50 a month.
Yeah.
And you're not making any money. He's not happy with the product he's getting. So managing your expectations, and what I mean by that is if you have a dollar amount per hour, per year that you're trying to hit, you have to stick to those numbers. And then managing customers' expectations is really simple. The problem is it's emotional, and people get attached to other people, especially when they buy into you and when they buy into your business. You want to do them favors, and you end up not doing them favors. You actually end up screwing up the relationship. And so I think the biggest thing that I could say is, and I think we did this really, really well, was setting that expectation, but then managing it along the way, because people's expectations change. You do a great job for a year, and then they expect, well, I've been a good customer. I've paid them a lot of money over the No, that's not where we started. That's not where we're going to finish. You got to, and back to Tim's point about, if I do this, you're going to do this. That's how it worked. I mean, if I'm going to offer you a price and then you tell 100 people about me, then that price may change.
Yeah. Well, that's all great stuff. That's excellent advice. Before we put a bow on this segment here, let's connect the dots between Matt LaMarsh, the landscaper, and Matt LaMarsh, the realtor. So how do we get there?
Sure. So last summer, had some allergy issues, had some physical. It's tough work every day. It's not just tough work for what you're doing. The conditions are tough. You're drinking a ton of water. You're drinking a ton of electrolytes. It takes its toll on your body. My little activity sensor on my wrist here on my watch would go off by about 10:30. And I have goals that are probably 2 and 3 the normal, person. So it's a very physically demanding thing, and I'm only 36, so this sounds ridiculous. I'm sure.
But you're doing it every day, and so that's that was my question: is what's the most steps you took in one day? Do you know?
There were days we had a school that we used to do that it was like 9 or 10 acres, so we would do. I know I walked 7 miles one day. Just walked 7 miles, like in between properties and stuff.
That's awesome.
And you got to consider how much time you're in the truck as well. But anyway, so the physical toll really kind of reached a precipice last summer, and I went and saw a chiropractor and a massage therapist, and they were like, "What do you do all day?" And I told them, and they were like, "Yeah, if you're going to do that and you're going to continue your physical lifestyle and trying to work out and do the things that you do, you really need to reconsider some of your decisions." And even my doctor made some recommendations that we won't go into any detail on, but needless to say, I'm not getting any younger, and it was starting to take its toll. And, some of the equipment and stuff can get heavy, when you're doing it hours and hours and hours a day. When you're out there cutting your grass on Saturday, it doesn't seem like it's that bad.
That's no big deal.
When you do 10 or 12 or 15 a day, it starts to really take its toll. So that kind of started the process. And I've always had an interest in real estate, wanting to be an investor and wanting to be an agent. And honestly, I feel like it's a better fit for me. I loved the landscaping business. I thought, all of our customers I thought were, fantastic and did everything that I would ask them to do as customers. And hopefully we hit the mark, for many of them. It's kind of crazy. A lot of them, and I mean a lot of them. When I sold the business, we had 50 customers. Of those 50, there were 10 that I never met face to face, that I emailed with or that I texted with. That's how I got the business.
That's awesome.
I never actually physically met them. So anyway, that kind of pushed me in a new direction with real estate. In November, I got my license, or started taking my courses for my license. In December, passed the test. And then in January, joined the Keller Williams office here in Atlanta.
Very cool. So just one more point to add. You sold your business.
I did.
And what did you make money on that?
Yeah.
I don't have to go into details.
No. Okay. So
just for, again, the average listener.
Yeah. Well, and this is a good, if you're looking to get into this business and maybe you don't have the sales and marketing background like I do, or maybe you're terrified of the idea of building a business, if you have $10 or $15 or $20,000 laying around, you can go buy one. Go to Craigslist, look under business, and there will be a landscaping business there for sale. There will be at least one. And when I tell people that I sold my business on Craigslist, they're like, no, you didn't. No, I did. I literally, just like you would sell a piece of furniture or a car or anything else, I listed it on Craigslist. About 3 days later, I had a guy reach out to me that had 5 crews. He wanted to expand into Sandy Springs, Dunwoody area. I told him I wanted to sell the truck, the trailer, and the whole 9 yards, and the accounts. He only wanted half of it. He just wanted the accounts. He already had the equipment and truck and trailer and stuff. So he bought the accounts from me. And, that kind of helps me bridge the gap here between being a landscaper and being a realtor now. So.
Very cool. So before we go on to our final segment here, where can people find you on social media?
Sure. So on Facebook, Matt LaMarsh. On Instagram, MLAMARSH. That's M LaMarsh. My website's mattlamarsh.com. It's got all my real estate stuff there. We do videos, we do podcasts, we do kind of a series more or less on the city of Sandy Springs, the people that, kind of run behind the scenes there and make our city special. That's kind of a passion project for me.
And that's the Selling Sandy Springs podcast?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Selling Sandy Springs podcast, as well as on Facebook and Instagram. And, mattlamarsh.com. You got it.
All right, we'll be right back after the break.
This episode is sponsored by 1776 United. 1776 United is a patriotic and historically inspired lifestyle brand. They make the best patriotic shirts and apparel on the market today. I personally own many of their products, and if you want to don patriotic gear without looking gaudy, check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and at 1776united.com.
All right, guys, welcome back. Our guest, Matt, is going to do our bonus segment this week. Take it away, Matt.
That's right. So this is going to be rapid fire. Your name is your buzzer, just like in the past.
Okay.
Whoa. I've done my research. I know what's going on, Dave.
And this is landscape based?
This is landscape related. So in the heyday, we basically had 3 pieces of equipment. We had a lawnmower, we had a weed whacker. Some people call it a weed whip if you're up north.
Trimmer.
Weed whip? What?
I've never heard
Get out of here, Yankee.
That is incorrect. I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to help grow your audience here. It's all good vocab.
We love Yankees.
And then leaf blower. So that could be backpack, it could be handheld, it could be whatever. So just a little bit of history. I'm not going to go through a huge thing here, but when do you think the first lawnmower was invented?
Dave.
Yep.
I have no idea. I'm going to say...
I knew how confident you were.
I want to go.
Had no idea.
I want to go back to like Leonardo da Vinci times.
When was that?
It's like 1600s.
Yeah, I'm going
I'm gonna say 1600s.
I'm going way earlier. I'm going BC.
Whoa! No, they would have used a
Dude,
Sith.
Are you insane?
Sith.
There's no way that's right.
Scathe.
It might be 1970.
Scythe.
A scathe.
Wow, there's a lot of disappointed listeners.
We have 1600s and we have before Christ.
And we have, what's Tim's answer?
What?
What's your guess?
Dude, I don't know how to pronounce that.
That's fine, but go.
I thought it was a scythe.
No, we're not saying what's the first.
Oh,
We're saying
sorry.
when.
Yeah, what
When.
year? What year?
We know we can't
Oh.
pronounce that word.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Then, like, are you counting that as a lawnmower?
That's a good question.
Okay. So
yeah.
if you're
Let's talk about wheeled lawnmowers.
okay,
Wheeled
so
lawnmowers,
that
okay.
would be
That'll change
like
my
a
answer.
rotary cut push thing. I'm going to say 1837.
I'm going to say Jesus invented it. No,
I
okay.
can't believe how close you are.
Oh, really?
Oh.
That's amazing. 1830, actually.
Wow.
Very good.
Yeah.
I went over.
Wait, so
that,
not
I was-
BC?
No.
Winner.
AD, yeah. Edwin Budding, Budding, in 1930. In England.
Nice.
1930 or 1830?
1830.
Sorry, 1830.
Okay.
I said 19.
Okay.
It's 18.
What country do you know?
England.
Okay.
England.
he said
And there's only two real, lawnmowers. So you have rotary, you have reel. That was a reel style. So you had the
Okay.
wheels on the back,
Rotating cylindrical
I'm making,
blade.
I'm making.
I actually have a
motions.
reel mower for sale. If anyone wants to contact me, I have a reel mower for sale on my back porch.
Gas or push?
Gas.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
What kind?
Rich.
Mc something.
McLean.
Yeah.
That's when you had your Bermuda grass.
It's when I wanted a golf course lawn, and I was like, this is the only way to get it.
It is.
But I didn't realize that you have to cut it like every hour. Okay. And so I basically had a 3-inch long grass with a really hard to use mower.
Yeah. That's
All
about
right. So Mr. Budding in England.
1830 in England, yeah. Obviously made a bit of progress since then.
Check mark for Tim.
That was impressive. 7
Gold
years.
star.
Not bad. So the weed eater was the second piece of equipment that we used and that we had. When do you think that was invented?
That's going to be much later.
It's got to be.
Because no one cared.
I'm going to say 19. Gosh, I think it's actually way later. I'm going to say 1960.
I was going to say 1975.
I'm going 19. Someone's close, I'm guessing, by Matt's reaction.
Matt, you can't give it away.
It's
Go
crazy.
ahead. I didn't give my gift.
1971.
Guess.
Yes.
Nice.
That's kinda crazy.
71. That is
Nice one.
late.
Yeah, that is late.
When you consider what it does.
What did
I
that
mean,
thing look like back then?
And
Was
who
was heavy.
Did you like
manufactured
drag it behind you?
Yeah,
And
so Poulons, I think it's how it's pronounced.
Poulans? Oh, yeah. They still
Which
make
they're still
chainsaws,
around,
yeah.
right? So they were one of the companies that made it, and then Emerson Electric also made it, and then they eventually combined forces and developed.
it's a useful device.
The
today's
modern-
For sure.
Yeah.
So people didn't care about edging their lawn until.
Well, that's what I thought about, like all the ranches and fences and everything. You can only get so close, even with a big tractor. But
Interesting.
Anyway. And then the blower. The blower was another tool that we used. When do you think those became?
Like gas
Specifically
powered ones?
for lawn care.
I'm going to say that was much later as well. I'm going to say late. I'm going to say like late 70s.
Okay.
I'm going to say like 1937.
Well, I was going to say 70s, but in the interest of making it interesting, I'll say 1969. Yeah. I'm going to. I'll go BC.
Yeah, not gas powered though, right?
So you like pump up and then you press a button to release it?
Right.
You wind it up a rubber band.
1947, actually.
47.
Really?
The blower
And-
came before the weed whacker.
That's right. And what's interesting is the original leaf blower that we think about, it was not actually built for that purpose. They actually used it to like crop dust. So you'd go into a nursery, they would use it much like the mosquito guys do. And they would actually
Or like I do.
So they so they used it to disperse chemicals.
correct.
Interesting.
Before they used it to blow leaves.
To
the
blow
early
leaves.
chemtrails.
But now we're back to using it for like household chemical spray.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I did bring a couple little gifts for you guys here.
Ooh, what do you got?
As an avid listener. I'm going to start with the least thoughtful because I just didn't have a
Tim's
great
going to
thing.
hate it, I can already tell.
This is actually a really good coupon for Pet Boys.
hey,
This is for an oil change?
15, yeah.
I'll take it.
Like a big discount on someone to do your own oil change there. No.
Oh, nice.
You can go get
Okay, so
something.
for our listeners.
This is like a spa day for Tim.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
No, Matt just brought a mailer with him.
Okay, Matt brought some
Grabbed it on
junk
the way
mail
out.
for us. Straight junk mail for Pet Boys.
It's fresh, though.
And it's a collection of coupons for, oil change service, auto maintenance and repairs. I'm going to pass on that, guys.
Okay. So in my defense, Harbor Freight didn't have any more I Love Harbor Freight shirts. They were sold out.
I would totally buy that.
You gotta have that shirt.
They don't. I don't know if they do.
I think they'll make you one.
I brought David a brick.
Yes.
Whoa.
Dude, wait a minute. Why do I need this? Tell me why I need this.
You tell me. You're the podcaster here.
I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast.
You have 100%
yes.
mentioned it because when you put a tarp on your roof,
Yes.
you shared that you went and bought bricks.
I did buy bricks.
from the store.
And I'll tell you this, I didn't buy enough, okay, because I still get up there, I don't know, 2 to 3 times a week to adjust my tarps.
It's still up there?
Still up there.
Do you,
How long ago?
So I'm going to use this brick.
have you ever hit up my brick pile like I said?
Yeah, have you ever walked around the back of
No,
Josh's
because
house?
whenever I go to your house, I'm like carrying kids with me, and like bricks are even heavier, so I just don't grab them.
So,
I
just
got a
for
free
future
brick
reference,
pile.
Josh has a large brick pile behind his house. I too have a large brick pile.
Tim's into cinder blocks. I'm into the regular house
Well,
bricks.
like a cinder block would have been better for me because they're heavier and they're probably not going to move. Bricks are not going to, they don't get it done. I need to get my roof fixed.
Well, I didn't buy that. I just pulled it out in the neighbor's yard. So,
If you got more, let me know.
yeah.
Oh, I know what Josh's gift is. I see this on the table.
Josh
This
is getting
hilarious.
Oh, no.
a bar of
Perfect.
Dove soap
oh,
Perfect.
because I was
Please go
listening
take
to the last podcast and
Well, I'm not going to use it for another month or two.
Go
this
wash
should be a year's
yourself.
supply or so. I'm imagining. I did take a shower after listening to that podcast.
Great ideas, Matt. We appreciate the
no
gifts.
What a
All good.
thoughtful guest. Very nice.
We do appreciate that.
Yes.
That was very thoughtful.
I assure you that I'm the only one that's going to use their gifts. These guys aren't going to use it. Tim's not going to get his oil change for that.
Yeah.
Keep on, but you should.
Hey, next podcast, can we talk about Amazon basic oil? Did we talk about that yet?
We haven't. Let's
Oh,
save it.
man.
Yeah.
Next podcast. I'll
All right.
mention that.
Cliffhanger.
Okay, that's going to wrap us out. Hopefully, we didn't go too far over
We're
this,
good.
this,
It was
this
worth
time,
it.
what we normally do. Anyways, as always, make sure to check out our show notes at youcanman.com. Check us out on Instagram and our Facebook page. Thanks so much.